Some of the hardest parts of a backpacking trip happen before you ever reach the trail. Rushed decisions, poor sleep the night before, and a pack that slowly gains weight all pile up without you noticing. The upside, every bit of that is fixable at home. So let's start with the biggest drain. The tiring part of a backpacking trip usually starts long before the trailhead. A rushed night of packing, a pile of last minute, oh, maybe I should bring that decisions, and a pack that creeps heavier without you noticing. All of it stacks together in a way that costs you energy before the first mile ever begins. When your pack isn't intentional, you feel it quickly. And if packing happened under stress or too close to your departure, now you may be dealing with poor sleep and that frantic, did I forget something tension that makes the pack feel even heavier than it is. After over 300 nights on trail, that pattern became impossible for me to ignore. The smooth starts always came from calm, early preparation. My rush starts all felt the same too. Poor sleep the night before, a heavier feeling pack, and noticeably lower energy in the first few miles. The upside is that this is one of the easiest backpacking problems to fix at home. First, instead of trying to shave ounces off individual items, just remove the extra versions of things you already packed. The backup shirts you probably won't touch, the just in case comfort pieces, the duplicates you tossed in just out of nerves. And pack at least 24 to 48 hours before your trip. Lay everything out where you can see it and keep only what you know you'll actually use. I even try to finish packing the day before my actual last day, so that final day before a trip is relaxed and I can get to bed on time. Load your pack when you're rested, not when you're racing the clock. So foot issues don't usually start on the trail, they start at home before the trip with the assumption that your setup is already fine. Shoes felt good in the store, your socks feel great around the house, and maybe you've done a few day hikes with no problems. It's easy to think that everything will hold up once you add weight, heat, and real mileage. And that assumption takes people out of trips faster than almost anything else. The real issue is how your feet behave under sustained load. If a sock compresses in the wrong spot or the heel pocket of your shoe isn't quite right, the feedback shows up quickly, usually as a dull burn or a shifting pinch that won't go away once it starts. I've learned that the conditions you test in before a trip matter just as much as the gear itself. A shoe that feels perfect on a 1 mile day hike can feel completely different on a rough trail with a 30-pound pack. The fix? Treat your foot system like something that has to be proven before a trip. Do a few longer hikes with your full pack. Test different sock combinations and pay attention to anything that feels warm, tight, or just slightly off. Maybe add a better insole or a thin liner sock if needed, but only after you've seen how everything behaves under real trail conditions. And this ties directly into something we'll get deeper into later in the video. Training hikes are where your whole system gets validated before it ever has a chance to ruin a trip. Not knowing where your next water source actually is can change how you hike long before you're even aware it's happening. Even when the trail is going well, you'll often start second guessing your pace, your breaks, and how much you're drinking because you're not totally sure where the next source is. When you don't have enough solid information on water, your brain kind of slips into conservation mode. You drink less than you should, you ration when you don't need to, and everything starts feeling kind of harder than it should. And the fix happens entirely at home. First, make sure your water filter actually works before you leave. I can't tell you how many trips get derailed by a clogged filter that had sat on a shelf all winter long. Then look up recent water reports or hiker comments for your route and identify two simple things: where the reliable sources are and what your longest dry stretch will be. Once you know that, your confidence level jumps. You can drink normally, your pacing stays steady, and you stop burning mental energy on something that should never be a mystery. And I'm curious, what's a mistake that you made before a trip even started that came back to haunt you on trail? Drop it below, someone else will learn from it. Food is one of the easiest things to misjudge because it feels so intuitive. You look at your meals, you imagine how hungry you'll be, and then maybe toss in a few extras. But the bigger issue is simple. People usually either pack way too much food than they'll actually eat or not nearly enough. So you end up either overloaded with extra weight or you don't have the energy that you need because you're not getting enough fuel. And another problem is that a lot of the foods we love at home don't actually keep you going on trail. Stuff like candy bars, pastries, and sugary snacks add weight but don't keep you full for very long. And when most of your calories come from those quick hit foods, your energy rises and drops all day, which means longer breaks, slower recovery, and a kind of mental drag that makes every mile feel heavier. And I've gone through that cycle plenty of times myself, packing things that look good on the couch only to realize on trail that they weren't doing anything for me when I actually needed it. So the method for food planning is keep your food like part of your comfort system, not as an afterthought. Start with a basic calorie target. And if you want a quick starting point, I built a simple backpacking calorie calculator that gives you a daily baseline without overthinking it. Then pick foods that have a higher calorie per ounce ratio and maybe test a full trail day of eating at home or during a training hike so you know how your body responds to that kind of food. Once your food matches the way you hike, everything gets easier. Your pacing, your mood, the climbs, even your sleep. Stable energy is one of the biggest comfort upgrades you can create before you ever take a step. Training hikes are one of the fastest ways to find out how your gear and your body are actually going to behave on a real trip. All the earlier issues, foot pain, food choices, pack setup, stop being theoretical the moment you put real miles on your system. And proper training hikes give you that feedback immediately. Small problems that stay hidden indoors show themselves the second the terrain starts pushing back. I've had so many of these issues disappear simply because I caught them on a short hike or a walk around my house. One tiny adjustment here, a different pair of socks there, or adjusting a piece of gear inside the pack prepared me for a smooth hike once the real trip started. And if you want a simple framework for putting these practice hikes together, I built a free training plan that gives you an easy starting point no matter how far out your trip is. Ultimately, a simple approach usually works best. Choose a local trail or a park or even just around your block, load your pack the way you intend to carry it, and give yourself a few miles to feel how everything settles in. The payoff is huge. You start your real trip calm, confident, and already familiar with how your setup performs. No surprises, just smoother miles from the very start. The thing to keep in mind with all of this is that the trail doesn't usually create any new problems. It just exposes the ones that were already sitting in your system before you left home. And when your basics have been tested, your pack is intentional, and your food and water setup are dialed in, the whole trip feels easier. And if you want to see what parts of my own setup didn't earn their place and what I replaced them with, this next video walks through the gear changes that made my system a whole lot smoother. And if this helped you get your system just a little more trail ready, consider subscribing. I share things like this every week. All right, start thinking about your next trip, and I'll see you on the trail.